It started with a sound, a low, rumbling hum that didn't belong on Port Harcourt's dusty backstreet. The kind of sound that made children pause mid-laughter and mothers instinctively reach for their children. It rolled in like a warning, like a memory waking up after too long. Amara was stirring stew over hot charcoal, her apron already soaked in sweat and stains, when she felt the vibrations. Not in her ears, but in her feet. 3 long black SUVs turned into the narrow street, as if the road had always belonged to them. Jessica froze mid-step, a plate of jollof rice trembling in her hands. Even Mama Hannah, who never flinched for anything these days, stopped chewing, spoon halfway to her mouth. Her old eyes squinted, then widened. "Who owns these cars?" someone whispered. The SUVs purred to a halt right in front of Amara's food stall, a makeshift wooden stand under a fraying canopy, 2 coolers at its heart like ancient guardians. The wind flipped one side of the torn tarp. The stew bubbled on. Amara's heart thudded. Hard. They weren't here for food. The first door opened. He stepped out. Tall. Skin the color of roasted chestnuts. A suit so perfectly tailored it looked unreal under the Port Harcourt sun. His shoes glinted. His watch sparkled. His face was unreadable. He walked straight to Amara. Jessica whispered, "Mommy, he's coming here." Amara couldn't move. The wooden spoon in her hand dripped stew onto her feet. Her mind raced, scanning her past for anything that could justify the presence of such a man. He stopped right in front of her. "Good afternoon," he said, voice calm, polished. Her throat dried. She managed a nod. "Please," he continued. "Who is Amara?" "The owner of this food stand." The street fell still. Plastic chairs stopped squeaking. The aroma of smoke and spices hung in the air like a hell breath. Amara lifted her hand, trembling. I'm Amara." He exhaled, like he'd been holding that breath for years. Then came the sentence that bent the world. "Thank you for feeding my mother." Someone gasped. A plate shattered somewhere behind them. Amara blinked. "Your mother? Who?" A soft voice cracked behind her. "Please, who is your mother?" "Mama Hannah." Her frail body stood, trembling. Her eyes stared like she was seeing a ghost. The man turned. Their eyes met, and time collapsed. His voice broke. "Mama, it's me, Jerry." Mama Hannah staggered. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her knees bent, and she collapsed. Before anyone could catch her, Jerry dropped to his knees and caught her. A billionaire in a navy blue suit, kneeling on a dusty street, clutching a homeless woman like she was the last truth he had. "My mother," he whispered. "I'm not dead. I survived." People screamed. Someone shouted. Jessica dropped her plate. Amara's mouth hung open. This wasn't happening, but it was. And in that moment, the entire street forgot who they were, what they were doing, or where they were supposed to be. Mama Hannah lay limp in Jerry's arms, her face pale, her breathing shallow. "Water," Jerry said, desperate. "Please, anything cold." Amara stumbled to her cooler, grabbed a bottle, and rushed it over. He unscrewed the cap with one hand, gently sprinkled water on his mother's face. "Mama, please open your eyes. It's me. I'm here. I came back." For seconds, nothing. Then her eyelids twitched. A shaky breath. A soft, hoarse whisper. "Jerry." Jerry sobbed. "Yes, Mama. It's me." Her fingers lifted, touched his cheek like she couldn't believe. "You're alive." He nodded, holding her hand to his face. The crowd wept. Jessica dropped beside them. Amara wiped her face with her apron again and again. Nobody moved, because kindness had just returned, and it wore the face of a man who was supposed to be dead. Jerry sat Mama Hannah on one of the plastic chairs. She clung to his hand like she was afraid he might vanish. Amara stood close, but quiet. "We buried an empty coffin," Mama Hannah whispered. "They said both of you died." "They attacked us," Jerry said softly, "on the road to Lagos. Armed men. They shot Papa. Shot me. Left us for dead." More gasps. "A good Samaritan found me. I lost a lot of blood, lost my memory. I didn't even know my own name." Amara pressed her hand to her chest. "A volunteer adopted me," Jerry continued. "Raised me. Gave me a new name. I didn't remember anything until a few years ago." "So, how did you find her?" Jessica asked. Jerry looked at her. Someone recognized my face. So they once saw a widow who looked just like my late father. They gave me her name. Hannah. He turned to Amara. I searched everywhere. And then I found out. She was being fed here. Sheltered. Loved. Amara's lips parted. Her hands shook. You gave her life again, Jerry said. And you didn't even know who she was. Tears rolled down Amara's cheeks. Jessica grabbed her mother's hand. You are family, Jerry said, whether you know it or not. Then Mama Hannah gasped. Her hand flew to her chest. Jessica screamed. Amara lurched forward. Mama Hannah! Jerry caught her again. She was going down. Again. Her body was too light. Her breathing too thin. Call the ambulance. Jerry shouted. Already en route. One of the guards replied. Women rushed with fans. Someone brought more water. Jessica grabbed a hand fan and started waving frantically. Please don't die, she cried. Please, please stay. Then the siren. An ambulance roared into the street. The medics moved fast. Oxygen. Pulse. Chest compressions. Amara knelt beside them, whispering, God, not today. Not like this. Jerry's voice shook. You can't leave me again. I just found you. Jessica sobbed. Amara cried openly. The medics lifted Mama Hannah onto the stretcher. Jerry turned to Amara. Come with us. Please. But we're not family, she whispered. You fed her, he replied. You are family. Guards opened the SUV door. Jessica looked at her mother. Mommy, I'm scared. Me too, Amara said. But we will be okay. The SUV door shut. The convoy followed the ambulance, sirens blazing. And as the street disappeared behind them, Amara held her daughter tightly, wondering how everything she knew had just changed in a single afternoon. The emergency room smelled like steel and silence. Amara had never been inside a private hospital before. Not like this. Not let in by men in suits. Not with the weight of sirens still buzzing in her ears. Not with her hands trembling as she followed a billionaire whose knees had touched dust for the sake of an old woman she used to feed for free. Mama Hannah disappeared behind thick double doors. Jerry stood motionless. Jessica clung to Amara's side, her small hand in her mother's bigger, calloused one. She was silent, eyes red but steady. Amara could barely breathe. A doctor rushed over. What happened? Fainting. Twice. Emotional shock, Jerry said quietly. Chest tightness. She collapsed. The doctor nodded, already pulling on gloves. We'll handle it. Please wait here. And just like that, they were left alone in a waiting room far too white and clean to feel real. Jerry sat, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like it had answers. Amara didn't sit. She stood in a corner, her back straight, trying not to shake. Her apron was still on. Her hands still smelled of stew. Jessica whispered, Mommy, will she be okay? Amara looked down. Yes, baby. God will not let us lose her. Not now. Jerry finally spoke. She called my name. Even before she opened her eyes. She called it like she knew I was near. Amara didn't know what to say to that. She had no idea what to say to any of this. Time passed. 5 minutes. 15. An hour. The air grew heavy. The silence between them thickened, but no one dared to break it. Then the doctor returned. She's stable. Jerry leaped to his feet. She's awake. Yes, but weak. She needs calm. One visitor only. He looked at Amara. No, she said immediately. She's your mother. You go. But Jerry shook his head slowly. You fed her when I couldn't. You gave her warmth when I wasn't there. She'll want to see you. Jessica tugged on Amara's hand. Go, Mommy. Please. So she went. The room was quiet. Machines beeped softly. White sheets. Pale walls. And there, beneath all that hospital stillness, lay Mama Hannah. Her eyes opened the moment Amara entered. My daughter, she whispered. Amara rushed to her, took her hand, held it carefully. Mama, don't talk. Just rest. But Hannah smiled. A small, stubborn smile. You stayed. Always. A tear slid down the older woman's cheek. You don't know what you've done for me. You don't know what you've saved. Amara swallowed hard. It was just food, Mama. Just rice. Nothing special. No, Mama Hannah said. You gave me a reason to wake up. To sit in the sun. To talk. To live. Amara didn't speak. She didn't trust her voice. Why are you like this? The old woman whispered. Who taught you to love like this? Amara only smiled, and behind it, pain pulsed quietly. Maybe because I know what it feels like to be forgotten. Back in the hallway, Jerry sat with Jessica. She really loves you, the girl said suddenly. Jerry looked at her. Who? My mother. Jessica shook her head. No, my mother. He smiled faintly. She's easy to love. Jessica tilted her head. Do you have any children? He chuckled. No, I barely have time to sleep. Jessica nodded, serious. Maybe one day. Maybe. They both looked up when Amara returned. She's better, Amara said quietly. She's asking for water. I'll go, Jerry said, standing. When he passed Amara, he paused. Thank you. She said nothing, just gave a nod and turned away, her hands gripping her apron tighter than before. Later that night, after they'd returned home, Amara sat on the edge of their thin mattress. Jessica lay beside her, wide awake. Mommy, she whispered in the dark, what do you think Jerry meant when he said he'd bring something life-changing? I don't know, Amara answered honestly. Do you think it's money? Maybe. Maybe not. Jessica was quiet for a while, then said, You deserve something big, Mommy. Amara touched her daughter's face. We have something big already. We have each other. But even as she said it, she wondered what was coming. What kind of gift could someone like that give someone like her? And could she even accept it? The next day began like any other. Sort of. Except for the crowd. Except for the fact that neighbors were already waiting near her food stand before she even got there. Except for the whispers. Is he coming today? What did he say last night? Amara, you must tell us something. She only smiled weakly and kept unpacking her stew pots. Jessica tried to help, but her hands trembled. Mommy, I feel weird, like excited and scared. You and me both. And then came the sound again. Engines. 3 black SUVs, moving slowly, confidently, gliding through the neighborhood like they belonged now. People ran out of their houses. Phones lifted. Shouts erupted. He's back. The billionaire has returned. The car stopped in front of her stand again. Just like yesterday. Jerry stepped out, this time dressed in a white senator outfit that shimmered like morning light. Amara's breath caught. Jessica squeezed her hand. He walked toward them, this time with something in his hand. A sealed envelope. Thick, important looking. Amara's legs wanted to run. Her heart didn't know whether to beat or stop. Amara, Jerry said gently, my mother is better. She's asking for you again. Amara exhaled, but he wasn't finished. He lifted the envelope. This is for you. Amara blinked. What is it? Jerry dropped to one knee. Gasps exploded around them. Someone screamed. Jessica's mouth fell open. Please, Amara whispered. Don't kneel. Get up. Please. But he looked up at her, steady. You changed my mother's life. You changed mine. He opened the envelope and pulled out a set of documents. Kindness Restaurant, he read aloud. Port Harcourt branch. A murmur swept the street. The land is bought. The plans are approved. Construction starts today. This, he lifted the paper. This is yours. Amara staggered backward. Jessica gripped her tighter. Mommy, we have a restaurant. Jerry stood. Not just any restaurant. The biggest in the city. In your name. People screamed, danced, cried. But Jerry raised his hand. There's more. Amara shook her head. No, please. I can't take more. He reached into the envelope again. Another document. This is for Jessica. Jessica froze. Me? Jerry smiled. Your dream is to be a doctor. I will sponsor everything. Tuition, books, housing, all the way. The girl burst into tears. Amara collapsed into a plastic chair, sobbing uncontrollably. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Jerry crouched again, gently. Yes, I do. Kindness deserves to be returned. And just as she tried to answer, another sound broke the moment. A scream. Mama Hannah. She's fainting again. Jerry spun around. Jessica gasped, and the moment of joy turned into panic once more. Panic drowned the joy. 1 second, Amara was trying to understand how a man like Jerry could drop to his knees and hand her a restaurant. The next second, a scream shattered the moment. the kind that sucked the air out of the lungs before it reached the throat. Mama Hannah. Jessica spun toward the sound. No, no, please not again. Mama Hannah had collapsed into the arms of a nearby woman, her face drained of color, lips barely moving. Jerry was there in a heartbeat. Mama, Mama, look at me. She didn't respond. People stepped back. The crowd that had been celebrating only moments before now stood frozen in dread. A hush fell again, thick and anxious. The sound of someone's prayer whispered through the crowd. Jerry lifted his mother into his arms. Get the ambulance back. Now. One of the guards was already on the radio. Unit 2 returned to site immediately. Emergency. Repeat, emergency. Jessica's hands shook as she held onto her mother's wrapper. Mommy, I'm scared. Amara pulled her daughter close. Her own body felt like it was splitting in two. Part of her wanted to scream. Part of her wanted to kneel and pray. Mama Hannah's head lolled against Jerry's chest. Her breathing was shallow again. Her skin felt cold. Jerry looked at Amara, panic crawling across his face. We need to go. Now. The black SUVs moved again, this time not in ceremony, but in urgency. People cleared the road. Some shouted blessings. Some cried. Others whispered, will she make it this time? Back at the hospital, the emergency team was already waiting. They rushed forward, took Hannah from Jerry's arms, and wheeled her inside. This time faster. This time with beeping machines already running and oxygen masks in hand. Jessica and Amara stood in the hallway again. But this time, Jerry didn't sit. He paced, back and forth, like a man racing against time. She was fine, he kept saying. She was fine just an hour ago. She will be fine again, Amara whispered, though even she didn't believe her voice. Jessica said nothing. She just sat with her face buried in her hands. A nurse emerged 30 minutes later. She's stable again, but weak, very weak. Her body's not used to this much emotion in such short time. Jerry asked, can we see her? Only for a few minutes. This time, all three entered together. Inside, Mama Hannah's eyes opened slowly. She was pale but aware. Her lips lifted slightly when she saw them. My family, she whispered. Jerry bent down beside her bed. Mama, you scared me. She touched his face gently. You came home. That's all that matters. Jessica stood at the foot of the bed, her hands clasped in front of her. Amara pulled a chair closer and sat, reaching for the older woman's hand. I want to talk to all of you, Mama Hannah said quietly. You should rest, Jerry said. But she shook her head. Not until I say this. She looked at Amara first. You fed me with your own food. Gave me a place to sit when others called me mad. When people crossed the road to avoid me, you poured me water. You, Amara, reminded me I was human. Amara looked away, trying not to cry again. Then Hannah turned to Jerry. And you, my son, I thought I lost you. But now I see you strong, alive, kind. Her voice cracked. I can leave this world in peace now. Don't say that, Jerry said quickly. You're not leaving anywhere. Hannah smiled weakly. Then I must say one more thing. She looked between them. I want to see all of us healed, all of us whole. And I believe that begins with the truth. Amara leaned forward. What truth? Jerry took a deep breath. He looked at Jessica, then at Amara. There's something I haven't told you yet. He stood straight and turned toward Amara. Last night, he began, after I got back from the hospital, I couldn't sleep. Amara watched him carefully. So I made a call. I hired private investigators after our first meeting. I needed to understand who you really were. Not because I didn't trust you, but because I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just coincidence. Amara's body tensed. You investigated me? Jerry nodded solemnly. Yes, and what they found changes everything. Jessica straightened. What did they find? Jerry hesitated. Then he said it. Your husband didn't leave you. Silence. Amara's eyes widened. He didn't run away. He didn't abandon you. He was taken. Amara shook her head. No, that's not possible. Jerry stepped closer. Amara, it was the same group. The same criminal network that took me and my father years ago. They didn't stop. They kept going. For years. Jessica gasped. You mean? Jerry nodded. They targeted men traveling alone. On foot. Looking for work. Men like Johnson. Amara covered her mouth with both hands. Jessica looked at her mother. Mommy, Daddy didn't leave us. No, Jerry answered. He was kidnapped, just like I was. Amara collapsed into the chair again. Tears poured down her face, heavy and hot. I thought he was gone. I thought he left us. He didn't, Jerry said. He was a victim, just like me. Jessica cried. Amara sobbed. Even Mama Hannah had tears in her eyes. Jerry knelt in front of Amara again. I promise you something, he said. I will find him. Alive or gone, I will bring you answers. I swear it. Amara looked at him, eyes full of years she tried to forget. And if he's alive, then he's coming home. That evening, Amara sat at home, holding Jessica as they watched the sunset from their small window. Her eyes were swollen, her hands trembling, but her heart was starting to remember something it had forgotten a long time ago. Hope, not just for food on the table, not just for customers tomorrow, but for the man she once called her forever, and for the family she thought had broken too deeply to ever be whole again. She didn't sleep. Amara lay on her narrow mattress, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling that always leaked when it rained. But tonight, the drip of water was not what kept her awake. It was Jerry's voice echoing in her head. Your husband didn't leave. He was taken. 3 years. 3 years of grief, guilt, shame. People had whispered he ran away. Some even said, no man stays with a woman who sells food on the roadside forever. And the worst of it? Part of her had believed them. Not openly, not out loud, but in the quietest, cruelest corners of her mind, she had accepted it. Maybe she wasn't enough. Maybe he had simply walked away. But now everything shifted. Jessica stirred beside her. Mommy. Amara turned and brushed the hair from her daughter's forehead. Nothing, baby. Go back to sleep. But Jessica's eyes stayed open. She had her father's eyes, quiet, thoughtful, searching. You're thinking about him, she said softly. Amara nodded. Yes. I can't stop. Jessica hesitated. Do you think Uncle Jerry will find him? I don't know. Amara exhaled. But Jerry is the first person who ever tried. Jessica smiled faintly. Then maybe God sent him. By morning, the city had begun to stir. Port Harcourt streets buzzed with life. Generators roared. Sellers argued over Gary prices, and taxi drivers honked before sunrise. But Jerry was already working. His team had followed a tip. A retired police officer who remembered an old kidnapping case near the oil coast. An abandoned house. Burned documents. A hidden ledger. Jerry hadn't told Amara yet. Not until he had something real. He wouldn't break her heart with a maybe. At the stall, Amara burned the stew. Too much pepper, not enough onions. Customers didn't complain. They were too busy whispering and pointing. Since the billionaire came, people treated her like a prophetess. But all she felt was exhaustion. She wanted answers, not attention. Then came a now familiar hum of 3 black SUVs. Jessica nearly dropped a tray. He's back. Jerry stepped out, alone this time. No security. No crowd. His face unreadable. Amara rushed forward, hands still stained with stew. Jerry, come with me, he said quietly. She didn't ask questions. She followed. They drove in silence. Not the comfortable kind, but the tight, breathless kind. The car's engine purred like a lullaby, but Amara felt anything but calm. Then Jerry spoke. We found a compound. Her breath caught. It's mostly ruins. Burned. Abandoned. But we recovered some records. Is Johnson in them? She asked. Jerry hesitated, then pulled a folded paper from his jacket. He handed it to her with both hands, like it was sacred. She unfolded it slowly. There it was. Name, Johnson Okechukwu. Age, 35. Status, unconfirmed. Her hands trembled. Unconfirmed? What does that mean? We don't know if he's alive or dead. But the file says he was taken, along with 3 other men. The same group that took me and my father. Amara looked out the window. Her chest ached. I prayed for years, she whispered. I thought I was praying to a grave. You were praying to a man still trying to come home, Jerry said softly. That night, Jessica refused to eat. She stared at the paper on the table, like it might come alive. Mama, she said quietly, what if he's still out there? What if he forgot us? Amara placed her hand over Jessica's. If he's alive, he remembers. I believe that. He loved you more than anything. Jessica's lip trembled. I don't know if I want to hope. Hope is painful, Amara agreed. But sometimes it's the only thing left. For days passed. No call. No SUV. No word. Amara stopped cooking altogether. She just sat by the charcoal stove and stirred water. Then at dawn on the 5th day, her phone rang. Jerry's voice was shaking. Come to the hospital. Now. Jessica ran beside her through the hallway. Jerry waited near the ICU, face pale, hands twitching. Jerry, what happened? Amara asked. We brought someone in last night, he said. You need to prepare yourself. He led them through a white corridor, past quiet nurses and blinking monitors. Then he opened a door. A man sat on the edge of the hospital bed. Thin, weathered, his beard overgrown, his eyes hollow but searching. He turned at the sound of the door. Amara's body collapsed. Johnson, she whispered. He stood slowly. His lips moved, barely forming the word Amara. Jessica screamed. Daddy! Johnson took one step forward, then another. He reached for them, hands shaking, body unsteady. Amara fell to her knees. Jessica ran into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. I'm here, he whispered. I tried to come home. Amara crawled forward and held his face in her hands. You're real. You're real. He collapsed into her arms. They took everything. Years. I didn't even know how long it had been. Amara kissed his forehead. You're home now. You're home. Jerry stood outside the door. He didn't enter. He couldn't. Not yet. He had given them back their story. But his own still had blank pages. Jessica ran out and hugged him tight. Thank you, Uncle Jerry. He nodded slowly. You're welcome, Doctor. She looked up, eyes gleaming. You gave us back our lives. No, he said. Kindness did. I only followed where it led. That night, Johnson spoke. He told them of men in masks, of cages and hunger, of days without sunlight and months without names. I counted by pain, he said. I remembered you by smell. The stew, the sound of your laughter, Jessica's baby teeth. That's what kept me alive. Amara held his hand the entire time. Jessica sat beside them, quiet. Then Johnson looked at Jerry. You brought me back. Jerry smiled faintly. You were never lost, just waiting to be found. The next day, Port Harcourt was on fire with news. The missing husband returns. Billionaire reunites family after 3 years. Kindness brings him home. But for Amara, headlines didn't matter. Her family sat around a chipped kitchen table, eating beans and laughing through tears. Her husband was home. Her daughter was whole. Her world had been torn apart, and now it was stitching itself back together. Not with money, not with miracles, but with kindness, and someone who refused to let the past stay buried. The next morning, Port Harcourt woke up to a sun that felt like a blessing. It was the day everything would change. Not just for Amara, not just for Jessica, but for everyone who had ever eaten under that old torn canopy. Everyone who had whispered, one day, something good will come. The building once imagined in silence now stood bold and breathing. Kindness Restaurant gleamed under the golden light, its glass walls reflecting a street that had once only known dust and charcoal smoke. From tiny plates of beans to shimmering chandeliers, from one plastic chair to a waiting room lined with velvet seats. Amara's dream had become everyone's miracle. The crowd gathered early. Journalists, neighbors, school children in uniform. The mechanic who used to trade her soup for spark plugs. Even the fruit seller who once mocked her hustle now stood front row with tears in her eyes. Jessica adjusted her sash. Dr. Jessica Johnson. Her white coat was crisp, her hair in a tight bun. But it wasn't just her look that had changed. It was her eyes. They held the quiet wisdom of someone who had grown up in the shadow of loss and bloomed anyway. Beside her stood Johnson, Amara's husband, still limping slightly from old wounds, but tall again in spirit. He wore a navy blue suit Jerry had tailored for him. It still felt strange to him, being free, wearing something other than torn clothes. But in that moment, he didn't feel out of place. He felt needed. Seen. Home. Amara? She stood at the front steps of the restaurant, hands trembling, heart pounding. She wore a soft yellow lace wrapper and a head tie Jessica had chosen. On her chest was a brooch in the shape of a steaming bowl, a nod to the past, a symbol of what brought them here. And in her hand was the key. Jerry stood beside her. He wore white again, simple, quiet. His eyes never left hers. When the announcer called for the ceremony to begin, silence fell like a prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, the MC began. Today we open not just a restaurant. We open a story, a testimony, a reminder that kindness, even when forgotten, always finds its way back. People clapped. Some cried. A few just stood stunned. Then the mic was handed to Mama Hannah. She took slow, careful steps forward, her body old, her soul strong. In my lowest days, she said, her voice soft but clear, a woman with stained hands fed me without asking my name. She gave me soup when I had nothing but shame. Today, that same woman gives the city a gift far greater than food. She gives us hope. She turned to Amara, and the crowd watched as Hannah placed her hand over Amara's on the key. Let this be the door you never thought would open, Hannah whispered. Open it with pride. And Amara, with tears trailing down both cheeks, turned the key. The doors opened. The crowd roared. Fireworks exploded. Music rose. Cameras flashed. And Amara walked into her dream with her daughter, her husband, her second mother, and the man who made it all possible. Inside, the tables were already full. Every plate served that day was free. Jerry had insisted. Let the first meal taste like grace, he had said. Jessica moved from table to table, greeting guests, thanking teachers, hugging friends. At one point, she stopped by the kitchen and found Amara staring at the pots. Mama, she smiled, are you still checking the stew? Amara laughed softly. I'll never stop checking the stew. Weeks passed, then months. The restaurant didn't just survive. It thrived. Tourists came. Food bloggers posted. News anchors called it the soul of Port Harcourt. But Amara didn't chase headlines. She chased flavors, stories, people. She hired street vendors, trained single mothers, fed orphans on Sundays. Jessica began work at one of the best hospitals in the state. Jerry quietly sponsored others, too. Students, widows, anyone whose life reminded him of what could have been lost. And in between it all, something else grew. Quietly. Between Jerry and Jessica. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't loud. It was long walks. Share plans. Laughter in kitchens. Silence in hospital hallways. And one evening, under the garden lights behind the restaurant, Jerry took Jessica's hand. You walked into my life because of kindness, he said. And every day since then, you've shown me why love should never be loud to be real. She smiled. Are you proposing, billionaire? He knelt, holding out a ring. I'm asking to build a new home. Not with walls, but with you. Jessica nodded through tears. Yes. The wedding was small, elegant, held inside Kindness Restaurant. Amara wore gold. Johnson wore pride. Hannah wore her brightest lace. The cake had two names and one word below them, Grace. And when Jerry and Jessica danced their first dance, the street outside stood still. Even strangers paused, listening to the music spilling through the open doors. Because they knew they were watching something rare. Years later, Amara often sat by the window of her office. The Kindness Restaurant now had 4 branches. But her favorite part wasn't the profits. It was the smell of food on firewood, the laughter from the kitchen, the new girl who reminded her of her younger self. And sometimes, she would whisper the same words she once told her daughter. Kindness doesn't ask for details. And now she knew. Kindness doesn't ask for permission before coming home.